Hey everybody, welcome to Nomads Nation Podcast, Episode 9. It's Aaron, it's Danny Pax. Danny, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. Super happy to be back. Thank you for having me, and really excited to see what questions you have for us today.
I'm excited to see your reaction to some of my questions today. We got something lined up that we're going to touch on in a few minutes, but before then, Danny and I were just catching up, and Danny, you just said that you are about to go on a trip to Europe.
Yep.
Let's double-click into that real fast. Where are you headed?
So, doing some summer travel. We're going to be in Spain for a couple of days, and then going to be doing a cruise around the Mediterranean, the Greek Isles, maybe a little bit of Turkey. So, really, I've never done a European cruise, so I'm actually very curious to see what that's like.
I've never done a European cruise either, but they look pretty cool. I've actually never done a cruise in general, ever. I've got an extensive travel resume, and it's like a gaping hole. Like a gaping missing part of my travel resume. Everyone tells me cruises are awesome. Would support.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's kind of dangerous once you get used to it because it's so convenient that, like, you know, we're usually like the adventure, like let's explore all the things and really dig into the culture. But the cruise is just like you just show up. You don't have to worry about hotels or food. It's quite nice.
See, that reminds me of like my wife because she got me into. We never did cruises, but she loves resorts, and I was always like so against it. I'm like, babe, come on, I'm a backpacker. I would never. And then I get to a resort, and I'm like, this is paradise. It's a different kind of travel. Now I'm at the age where I'm getting a little bit older, and I'm like, all right, maybe like 3 or 4 like adventurous trips, like a couple adventurous trips a year, and then you can neutralize it with a couple cruise and or resort trips a year. That's kind of like the sweet spot for me right now.
I think that's a good strategy. It helps balance it because, you know, you don't want to go too extreme in one direction or the other. I know as backpackers, it's just fun to explore, see where our adventure takes us, but sometimes it gets tiring, it gets a little stressful, and so, you know.
Now, as a backpack reviewer, Danny, I have to ask you, like, what's your pack out for this trip? What are you bringing? What's the bags?
This one's tricky.
Are you going suitcase? Yeah, I mean, you got quite the itinerary.
Yeah, this one has been really hard to pack for, especially with the weight limits in Europe on those airlines.
For sure.
But I am taking a carry-on, a roller for this one, just with the length. And with cruises, it's just so convenient because they're pretty. Dude. So I have a carry-on bag. I'm either going to take the GR2 you see here behind me, the 26 liter, which is a magical personal item for Europe. It's my top recommendation for most people because EasyJet just slides right under the seat.
Yeah, but a bit heavy, right? I mean, it's clocking in at like 4 pounds, isn't it?
Only if they weigh it.
Well said. Only if they weigh it.
But yes, for sure. This is the ripstop nylon version, so it's a little bit better than some of the other ones. But yeah, and so I have either that one or another bag that I'm carrying. It's a Pioneer Panda Pack. You probably heard me and Bo talk about that one a little bit. It looks a little like a Toomey bag, but the pocket set out on that is really nice, as well as the sizing. So I actually brought a couple to my dad's house here, and then we'll see. I'm still fiddling with the setup, and then I have one of the level 8 roller carry-ons that I've had on the channel, which they look really nice, and the wheels are just so smooth. It's so luggage pass-through is a must for the backpack.
Is it the wide handle?
No, my wife's using that one, so it is coming, but that's her bag.
Got it, dude. That's funny. All right, good to know. I want to learn more about like your travel hacks and stuff. Maybe we'll say that one for a different episode. Also, on another side note, before we jump into the meat and potatoes, you're in Florida. I'm in Florida.
Yes.
We're like 2 hours away from each other drive right now.
I thought about it.
Halfway, dude.
I was like, man, let's try to make this happen. I wasn't sure what the timelines would be, but I was definitely like, if it's within an hour or two, even, I would have really wanted to do that. That would have been fun.
Just a couple swamp boys. Are you from Florida?
I was born in New York, but I moved here at 6 months and then been in Florida the rest of the time. So I think I'm from Florida.
Yeah. Our stories are similar. I was born in Connecticut, and then my parents moved us down here when I was like a year and a half. So, yeah, I guess in that sense, we're Florida men.
And I wear a lot of jean shorts, as my friends like to tease me. So I'm like, hey,
guilty as charged. Hey, nothing wrong with a good pair of jorts.
But yeah, I've been here all my life. I lived in South Florida and then went to school in Gainesville, and then just never really left because my wife went to do her PhD there, and then we just stayed there.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, we talked about it before. I lived in Gainesville. It's a really cool city, but I was there like 10, 12 years ago, and it's probably changed a lot since then.
It's changed a bit. If you ever want to come visit, you got a place to stay. So let me know if you get nostalgic for the Gators.
Hey, I was never a Gators fan, and I lived in Gainesville for about 8 months. Went to a couple games, and I've been at least a half Gators fan ever since. So go Gators!
Hey, love it. That's recorded. That's official. I love it.
Hey, I didn't say it's my number one team. It's Hurricanes all day. All right, but I know. I can double dip. Don't judge me.
No, it's fair. Isabella, she went to UM, so we got some Canes representation in the family now. So
it's all Florida love, baby. It's
all Florida
love.
Exactly.
All right, so Danny, let's jump into it. We're gonna do a little game. All right, and I'll be honest, I don't completely know the rules of this game, but we're just gonna kind of make it up as we go. Where the rules are essentially, though, I'm gonna give you a topic, and then you are going to say if that topic is overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated. Now, that could be based on, your opinion or what you're seeing in the carry community or, however you want to tackle it. However it hits you. I got some spicy ones in here. I got some fun ones. And we're going to jump into it. And then I'm going to give my opinions as well.
All right, I was going to ask. I was like, we got to get yours as well.
No. Actually, I changed my mind. This is just going to be your opinions, and I'm going to keep away from all. No, fine. Fair deal. We'll hear yours first, and then I'll give mine as well. Fair deal. We're going to start right now, and I want to know, Danny, in your opinion, XPAC, overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated?
I would say I would probably put it in the perfectly rated. It's one of those things that, I like it. It's not always my favorite. I don't dislike it. I'm kind of in the middle on it. I like the weather resistance that it offers. I like that it's a little lighter. It's still really strong. The premium that it sometimes comes with can be painful, but in general, I've had such great experiences with it that I can't say it's overrated if you have the budget for it.
I think you kind of swayed me actually, because I was going to go slightly overrated for XPAC because with XPAC we've got a lot of enthusiasts, XPAC enthusiasts out there, right? So sometimes you see them in the comments and you're like, it just makes it feel maybe slightly overrated, but you're right. The weather resistance, the just how technical of a fabric it is, how easy it is to clean.
Yes.
It's really impressive. The abrasion resistance, is a bit of a hit or a miss. The XPAC can kind of not handle abrasion quite as well as like the materials that Goruck uses, or even polyester in comparison. But that weather resistance and kind of just watching raindrops just slide right off of it, it's pretty epic. So are you locked in then at perfectly rated for XPAC?
Yeah. I think I'd have to say so. Let's say let's go with perfectly rated. I was trying to think because one of the things with XPAC is I know there's a couple of different styles or iterations or blends, which I've seen a few that are kind of sneaky where it's XPAC but only on a portion of the bag, and I'm well, you can't if that bumps up the price, that I would say is overrated. But in general,
that's a little it's a little shiesty for sure. And anybody who's watching this, if you're a part of the XPAC enthusiast club, or you want to learn more about XPAC, actually Alpaca just did a really interesting video about the XPAC manufacturing and the difference between VX21 and 42 and all these different details about it, which I actually learned a lot from. Have you seen that video, Danny?
I haven't, but I'm definitely going to check that out because I always feel like I'm still bit of a novice on some of the technical nitty-gritty. I'm curious to hear your opinions because you've been quite hands-on with a lot of fabrics over the past year or two, I'd imagine.
A bit, dude, yeah, but even then, I'm just scraping the surface, man. It's crazy. Even, just, on the level of, hey, I review bags, I thought that I kind of knew things about fabrics until I realized I really don't. And then I started to make my own bag, and I was like, oh, now I know things about fabrics. It's just a whole world in itself, You can get a PhD in this shit, basically. So, learning bit by bit, step by step, but overall, I think we're pretty much aligned there. XPAC, great material, not perfect, but I would say more or less perfectly rated.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a pretty easy one. We agreed.
Let's see how it goes from here. Softball to start.
Softball to start. Okay, so this one's a little bit different, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts about it. Danny Packs, security features on backpacks. Overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated?
I love this question, and I'm going to knock on wood as I say, I think it's a little bit overrated. I haven't had an experience yet though, so that might bias me a bit. I've been very lucky with when I'm traveling, that I haven't had somebody run by and try to slash my bag, so I don't have like any of the pack safe bags with like a mesh or the lockable zippers. I get a lot of comments on that, and I'm like, it's a nice to have, but I've never locked the zippers on most of my backpacks because I take a backpack so I can keep it closed, and I try to stay situationally aware. So if it gets to that point, I feel like I've already dropped the ball a little bit. So it's not something that I'm usually too concerned about. Like the GoRuck bags, they don't have lockable zippers. No. 1000D could probably stand up to some knife action, but I don't know. I generally don't pay that much attention to it. I call it out in videos. It's cool to have, but I would overrate that one.
Okay, coming in hot. Overrated security features. I share a lot of your sentiments. I think in my personal existence, I'm kind of with you. I agree that I think it's a little overrated. Because we get a lot of comments, or at least I get a lot of comments on the channel with people asking, like, let's say, like, the Bellroy Venture Ready Sling 2.5, and it's got the magnet Fidlock hardware, right, that connects the strap. And I get a lot of comments being like, dude, thieves, they're going to jack that motherfucker right off you. And I'm like, maybe, but I feel like if a thief is that committed to stealing your sling, whether it's a magnet or a little buckle, like, I don't know how much it's going to deter them extra, So I'm with you in that situation. Like, if you get in that situation, it probably doesn't really matter as much. I mean, it might in that 1%, right? But on the flip side, I do find myself, and I'm curious, Danny, do you have the same experience? I get a lot of people in the comments who are asking about security features and which bags have these locks, and that's prone to being pickpocketed, this pocket. Like, do you see a lot of that in the comments?
I do. I get a lot of that's how I learn which things to call out in videos if I'm missing, like, I haven't paid enough attention to it, is if people ask. I want to make it clear, because that's what we do, right, is help just share the features of the bag. And so that's one that's commonly either called out if a bag doesn't, particularly if it's a travel bag that doesn't have it, which I think is a fair criticism, right? I mean, it's been around for so long. I don't know what the cost implications are or why companies
You're referring
wouldn't.
to what, specifically, like YKK lockable zippers?
Yeah, that have like the little loop where you can put it in.
For sure.
Which I can see why people would expect that on a travel backpack, and I get a lot of questions if a bag doesn't have it, but yeah, I just don't use it as much. Even on my suitcases with like the built-in locks, I still find myself not really, just because, like, I don't know, I figure TSA is going to open it, they're going to open it, and if somebody wants to steal the bag, I don't know. I don't have anything that valuable in there, hopefully. So.
That's true. Yeah, these things kind of work like an insurance plan. Like, you never need it until you need it. And maybe you and I one day we're going to get robbed, and then like, our review channels will change completely. I'll be reviewing a new airbag. I'm like, there's no lockable zippers. This pocket's exposed. So maybe that experience changes you. And also, I think where you live, too, especially from an EDC perspective, like, we're talking travel right now, but a lot of people carry about these things on EDC bags as well. Not necessarily the lock zippers, but just little things, little features that can help deter theft and give you an overall safer everyday experience, or at least that gives you a bit of peace of mind, like that insurance does. So for my final pick, you picked overrated slightly. I'm gonna zag here. All right, you're zigging, I'm zagging. I'm gonna say it's slightly underrated, but only because of the comments that I get. Personally, a little overrated, but I think that the security-minded people in the carry community are kind of underrepresented. Like, because if I get a security, like, people are like, hey, I need a backpack that is lockable and slash-proof and all these things. I'm like, I guess pack safe. I've never reviewed one. That's what I've heard. I mean, that or Corin, right? Have you seen any Corin bags? I
haven't had a chance to review either, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, I've heard good things as well. So okay, cool. So go on.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, and there's the whole RFID spectrum, which I just. Like, I don't even know enough about it. Like, I've done some testing.
Oh, you're jumping ahead. I got that. Fine. All right, next question. Let's do it. RFID. Overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated? Danny, take it.
I mean, I was going to bucket it kind of in the same, like, and this is more maybe an ignorance thing. I've been pretty fortunate. I've traveled to, I would say, a pretty wide regions of the world, and so hopefully I've had an opportunity to experience many different cities. I've been lucky that I haven't been, identity jacked. or like I don't even know how that works if somebody just runs by with a reader. So it's probably more ignorance on my part, and I don't mind having it, but like I wouldn't not get a bag or a wallet because it doesn't have the RFID protection. So nice to have, but I don't know how common it is for that to occur.
So I too do not know the answer to this, but I will tell you some of the things that I've learned over the past year and 2 years now building my own backpack. And so we were considering making a couple pockets in the Firo backpack to have RFID. And my development team just started laughing. They're like, I'm like, why? They're like, dude, it's a scam. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, listen, here's the deal. So there's two reasons apparently why RFID is really just a marketing thing, apparently, okay? Number one is that for a compartment to truly be RFID protected, it needs to be like laser welded, right? Because really these little small freaking radio waves are getting through the seams and the stitching and the fabrics. So for it to be truly RFID, which most of these bags don't do, it's just like there's like an RFID lining on a pocket, but there's still stitching, right? And like all these these little waves can still like squeak through there, right? So that was my development team with Firo, the Bag Me team in Vietnam. That's what they kept saying in regards to that. And then the other part of it is the fact that while RFID was sort of a way that credit card thieves did steal information from like 20 years ago, the truth of the matter is that the dark web is so sophisticated now. Like, you just don't get dudes like sitting at cafes like with like satellites in their headphones and they're like, got one. They're just chilling at home and just buying credit cards for a couple dollars on the dark web. So I guess, like you said, so that's my understanding of it. If anybody knows anything about RFID, you got some hot takes, let us know in the comments or shoot me a message, because it's like one of these things where there's strong opinions either way. But I think I'm on the same page. Well, actually, what was your final rating, Danny? Was it slightly overrated for RFID?
Yeah, I think it feels a little bit overrated. I reviewed a bag which I did think was maybe an interesting alternative to this concept, which is the Silent Faraday backpack that had these sleeves that are like Faraday cages, I guess, in sleeve format. So you put your laptop or your phone in there and it blocks like everything. And it was interesting to figure out how to test it because, you know, I guess the point is that it takes you off the grid, right? You can't be tracked, you can't be hacked, and it seemed to work pretty well as far as like hiding all of your connections, but and so I think they did a great job with it. Not a feature that I need on a day-to-day basis, and that's even something like that which works well is why I would say maybe like a little bit overrated, but no, you know, nothing against the bag. I actually really like the bag a lot. But
what's the brand?
Silent, SLNT.
SLNT. What's the bag called? Just the back.
I think it's the E3, the E3 or the E3 Faraday backpack. I don't remember the exact name, but it's a really great bag. Like the feature set is like, you know, really like checking off a lot of the boxes, and so that's one of those things that I would have still bought that backpack if it didn't have the sleeves or the RFID. I guess is the point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I think we're on the same page. Like, nice to have. I'm not going to not buy something because it doesn't have RFID. But I think just some people are just really security focused and just, you know, again, depends where you live. So I think we're we're aligned on that one. For our personal use case, RFID, overrated. All right, so we're moving on to the next one, Danny. Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated. Warranties.
Oh, damn. This is these are all tough. This is, I want to say that it's well rated or perfectly rated. I mean, I have to say, I think I made mention of this in a video that I haven't published yet. It's coming up where I talk a little bit about this. But I mean, a lot of the companies that offer lifetime warranties, I imagine they have a lot of faith in the fabrics and the materials that they're using, and you know, they're already really good. So I haven't even had to test out the warranty. And so I'm going a lot based off of reputation, and you know, something like GoRuck, like that's one of the things they're most known for, right? Is like if something's wrong with your bag, send it in. They're going to take care of you.
Them and Peak Design, best warranties in the game.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that it's really important, especially when you're paying that much for a bag. You know, so I think that if that adds a little bit of a premium, it's probably worth it. I've heard that from other brands as well, where people just have a lot of peace of mind, and I can see why. So I think that's important. Now, the range of the warranty is interesting because I know like Bellroy has like a 3 or 5 year warranty.
3, and it's a bit controversial right now.
Yeah, and I mean, their bags are well made, so I'm guessing that it could probably last longer than that. Of course, you know how life being life, it's 3 year and day one when your bag fails, and then, and then I'm going to be eating my word.
Exactly.
So I think it's important.
Yeah. So was that perfectly rated? Well rated?
Yeah, I think it's well rated, perfectly rated. Yeah.
But my question, like, would you ever utilize a warranty? Have you ever used a warranty?
I haven't had to yet. I've been pretty lucky
on any product, though. I'm curious.
I'm trying to think. Like, Apple Care is one of those things. Does that count as a warranty? Like, I've used that, but that's kind of a protection plan, so I don't know if that falls under the.
I'm not a warranty expert. I think it kind of falls under the same umbrella, though. It's like where you know you're protected, that the brand will ensure the product is performing at the highest possible condition it can under a certain period of time. So yeah, it's actually really nice to have from Apple, you know. But I think tech and obviously soft goods quite different.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other. Like TV, like it's usually been electronics where I've had things that have run into problems, and when it's fallen outside of the warranty period, it's really frustrating. And so that's why like the length of the warranty is an important factor to me, because when it falls into the warranty and it's been fixed, it's great. It's super awesome to have it. With a bag, I haven't had to use it yet. Like, and I use my bags pretty well, and even with some of the like more budget-friendly bags that I've used, I've been pretty lucky. I think the one that tore on me was like a Walmart bag that was $30, and I didn't even bother.
Didn't come with a lifetime warranty, did it?
No. It seemed more painful to go through the process of trying to deal with the warranty than.
For sure. Well, it's funny, dude, because I had a call with Bo recently, and we were talking about warranties, and his perspective was really interesting because as people who live in America, you know, and I'm based in Hong Kong, but, you know, let's just, you know, an American-centric sort of perspective is like a warranty is great because a lot of these brands are based in America and you don't have to pay, you know, you might have to pay like $20-$30 shipping to get it back. It depends on the brand. Some brands will cover that. Some brands won't. But Bo's like, dude, I live in Germany. If I get a GoRuck bag and I got to get it repaired, I got to ship it out. And then I got to pay customs and duties on it coming back through. He's like, I would never use it. Like, people in Europe don't use it. So it's interesting to see how, like, warranties affect different people in different regions differently. And also, like, yeah, I think in some ways, yeah, that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. But also,
yeah,
I think in a lot of ways that you used it best. You said it best. I think that you said that warranties give people that peace of mind. And I'm seeing a lot in the comments, like, people are talking about, listen, it's not that I'm going to use the warranty. It's not that I'm going to try and scam the company. It's just that I want to buy products from a company that believe in their products, right, that stand by their products. And from that perspective, I get it. So my final answer is I think warranties are perfectly rated because I think they're overrated in the sense, like, I personally probably wouldn't use a warranty if it happened in, like, day 3 all day, you know, but, like, you know, that's a manufacturing defect. That would be covered anyways, right? So if I had a bag for a couple years and something broke, I might just be like, that's the excuse I needed to upgrade to a new bag. You know? So from that perspective, for me personally, it's overrated, but I think in the community, it's also a little underrated because they really appreciate it. So I'll kind of weigh those out, and we're going perfectly rated for me.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And by the way, I just got to say, I love these questions because I'm loving the opportunity to kind of put myself in the shoes of like a more global perspective. I try to when I'm reviewing stuff, right, and with traveling, but like, you know, just the use cases in the carry community. I'm thinking back to some of the security features. I'm like, well, if you're a bicycle rider, you know, somewhere in a crowded urban area and you're stopping, like, you know, it's just, it's interesting to think about. So that's why I love the comments from the viewers, right? Because it's people sharing those experiences.
And then, you know, as reviewers, you know, when I'm reading these comments, like, then I'm like, oh, I got to make a mental note for the next review, you know? And, like, as I'm looking at, like, a front admin compartment or a side pocket or a shoulder strap, I'm trying to think of, like, every potential pro and con, you know, that I've read in the comments, you know? Like, where someone's like, hey, you know, this feature that you love is actually terrible for me as a dad or whatever it might be, you know? So it's hard to think of all those different use cases, but the comments really help with that. So guys, please keep on commenting. Like,
you are the MVPs.
Preach truth to that, dude. All right, so we're gonna move on then. I got like 10 more. Which one do I want to do? All right, I got one. A little more specific, a little more nerdy.
Let's go. Let's go.
Fidlock V-buckles. Do you know what the Fidlock V-buckle is?
Is that the one with the little? Is that the Boundary Supply one or the?
So yeah, on the Boundary Supply Errant Pro or the Boundary Supply Prima system, it's the one with the little pull tab, right? And it unlocks and clicks into place. Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated.
Just trying to run through a couple of the alternatives and scenarios in my mind. You know what? I may be a little biased here, but I'm going to say that they're perfectly rated. A, because I love fiddling with... I mean, do they name them Fidlock intent? Like, they're like the perfect fiddling toy.
That's a good question, because you'd think that they would have, right? Because they literally are the best fiddling toys.
Yeah, they're made... So, like, I personally love them for the fiddle factor, but also they're just super reliable. Like, I love that the GoRuck M23 now uses those buckles, and I've been using that bag. And it's just so, like, quick release. It always works smoothly. When you lock it into place, it feels, really secure. And it just feels, pretty premium. Now, I think even with GoRuck, it was interesting to see that I think there's metal and then there's, like, a hard plastic Fidlock buckle now. Or I don't know if, like, the brand or the style or, if it's intermingled, like Band-Aids and adhesive bandage. I don't actually know. But as a style, I think they're great. I really like them.
So, the GoRuck bag, it's the M23?
Yeah, the new edition.
I'm seeing it pop up a lot right now. People are excited about it. Like, it's kind of like bringing an old school rucksack look where you would normally, like buckle those in, right? So instead of the buckles, like a traditional copper or brass buckle, they're like, hey, let's use a freaking Fidlock buckle. And I've been getting a lot of really positive comments. And people are like, listen... It's kind of like a bag that makes you fiddle with it. It's difficult to get into the main compartment, or should I say there's not difficult, but there's just extra steps, right? But I've talked to a few people who just like, dude, there's something about the experience of that bag that I've just really been enjoying. Have you been using it a lot?
Oh, yeah. I use it all the time. And it does have a side access zipper, so you don't have to undo the buckles. But I got the Heritage one, and I've been using it for work, and every time I come in, people are like, dude, that bag looks good.
That's the best fucking feeling.
They're like, whoa, what is that? People that aren't really as into the bag stuff, and most of my bags when I walk in, they're like, yeah, I guess that's pretty cool. But that one, they're like, whoa, I like that.
Yo, hey, dude, you're getting the approval of the whole office. That goes a long way.
Yeah, and it does that old school rucksack vibe. It'll factor into our future convo on some of the pop culture stuff, but there's something about it that it just makes me feel like a explorer, adventurer type vibe, and I love that.
But also, and GoRuck did it in a way that brought it into the future, right? Modernized it in some ways, as to where it's kind of its cool, own unique take. It's not just like the Indiana Jones backpack. It's like the Indiana Jones from, the future backpack. And that's cool. That's tight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, the pocketing layout is also nice because it's different from the GoRuck experience that you've had with the GR1s. It's just got a different feel, different layout, and I like it a lot. I mean, I don't know that I like it more than the GR1 yet, but it's definitely something I've been playing around with quite a bit.
It's creeping on you. Well, I'm gonna stir the pot a little bit here, Danny, and it's where you said perfectly rated. Was that your pick for the
Fidlocks? Yeah.
I'm gonna go slightly overrated, and here's the deal. I completely agree with everything that you said, and the word that I love to use with those Fidlock V buckles is satisfying. I mean, that click is just like. It's so secure, and the snap, and just the whole the precision of the hardware. It just feels incredible. But having said that, those things are heavy, and they're just kind of like bulky. I think that they can work in certain situations. M23, Boundary Supply Prima, Boundary Supply Errant Pro. They utilize them in the same way. It's like a modern buckle, right, that secures the front flap of the bag. I think when they're utilizing that perspective, perfectly rated, maybe even underrated. But I'm starting to see backpacks that are like using it for the sternum strap, and I'm like, hey, slow your roll.
Yeah.
That is a little extra in Aaron's book. So I think that, or it's just securing things that I think it might be a little overkill, at least for my personal use cases, where it's adding additional weight, it's adding additional complications, it's adding additional bulk. So that would be my take on the Fidlock V buckles. Do not put that as your sternum strap, please, backpack brands. I beg you. But oh wait, are you coming in hot? You like it as a sternum strap? Don't tell me, Danny.
No, I don't. And I was gonna say that is one where I draw the line. And the biggest reason why you're making me like, there's a few that I've tried, and it will close on you. And every time you put the backpack on, you have to unlock the sternum strap, which drives me nuts. Like, and so that's the main reason why it bugs me. So like,
Sure.
you put the bag down, hooked in, then you got to, and then yeah. So no, I'm with you there. I'm a little more torn. I thought you might get a kick out of this. I have a belt. I think it's from alpaca with a Fidlock buckle.
No.
So
Is it awesome or does it suck?
I mean,
Overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated for the alpaca Fidlock V buckle belt?
I mean, it might be a little. I think it's more of a fashion faux pas. Like, it works well, but like, you know, I definitely get the eye roll from my wife when I walk out with that one. She's like, "Oh, come on, like, go back, take that off."
I didn't know they made that. That's really funny.
So I appreciate the creativity, but yeah, it's a little funky looking.
I would say so, dude. Okay, that's great. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next one. What am I gonna pick? All right, I'm seeing a lot of these new bags right now, and it's an old bag. I mean, we've seen this style before, but they seem to be popping up all over the place. Have you been seeing a lot of like vertical slings and/or pouches coming up recently? Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated. What do you think?
This is one where it's so hard because everybody's tastes are different. For me personally, I would say overrated and would not use ever. Like, just not my style. Don't like the look, which is such a big part of all carry stuff for me. You know,
of course. So wait. Now, are you a sling guy in general, or is your hesitation just with vertical slings, like the alpaca modular sling? I think it is the simple phone sling. Nomads got the navigator pouch. You know, all these brands seem to have it now. The Bellroy city pouch, the Bellroy sacoche, the Black Ember sacoche. The sacoches are a little bit different, but regardless, we're getting like this new sort of wave of slings. Do you feel that way about all slings, or just the new vertical style ones?
Mainly the vertical ones. Like, I still will always use a backpack over a sling unless like I really just don't have that much stuff. But the vertical ones is just, yeah, I'm not a fan of that style.
I'm with you. I think I'm going to say overrated as well. And it's funny, we haven't done underrated for anything yet. So I'm curious to see if any of these topics end up being underrated. But I also agree that aesthetically, you know, this is not my cup of tea quite in the same way. Just like a sling horizontal across the chest. I'm just a fan of the way that looks and the axis of that. But I will say, functionally speaking, they do work quite well. Like, you know, because we shoot at Nomads Nation, we'll do all of our C-roll outside. You do the same thing, you know, where you'll go outside. I'm sorry, our B-roll. We go outside, you wear the bag, you're testing it out. We try to test out the bags as much as we can on Nomads Nation. And, like, they're really, really convenient. Like, they're just right there in that sense. And they're kind of not in your face the way that slings are. And you can kind of cross-body them in some ways that a sling doesn't always work as well, which I am a fan of. Just I think aesthetically, just not a vibe that is quite for me. So I think we're pretty aligned there. Yeah,
I hear you, 100%.
Okay, cool. So overrated. Everything's overrated or perfectly rated. Can I find one that's underrated? Let me look. Fanny packs, overrated, underrated, perfectly rated. I we had Chase on recently, and he's a big fanny pack guy. So if Chase was here right now, he would say underrated as fuck. So we know which team he's on. Chase is a dad now, and he's got a bunch of kids. And you know, I guess when you go into kid mode, you know, like just, you know, fanny packs and kids, they go hand in hand. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Oh man, I feel ill-equipped to answer this one. I don't think I've used them enough in so long. I would maybe lean underrated a little bit, because it always stands out to me when I use a sling that actually works well as a fanny pack. So like the Evergood Civic Access sling that's one of my favorite things about it, is it actually is a very useful functional fanny pack or a sling bag, which not all slings are. I actually think
it's a better fanny than it is a sling. Now granted, it's a great sling, but now that like Bellroy's been kind of like doing new style like with fits with their slings, I love those. And the Evergood's trying to be like a 2-in-1 fanny / sling. I think that it's a perfect fanny, and it's a really, 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 really great sling, but like not quite in the way like the Bellroy Venture Ready is, or some of the alpaca slings that are coming out. So I agree with you there. That's one of the best doubles, sling / fannies that I've ever reviewed.
Yeah, 100%. And like some of the other ones, like on the site, it says, "Oh, this can work as a waist bag or a fanny pack." And when I try it, I'm like, not really. Like this layout is not made for this. So when it does work, it always stands out in a positive manner. So that's why I think I'll have to agree with Chase. I have to agree with Chase on this one.
I think that I will too, just because it sounds good. But I'm curious. We're talking about the Evergood sling. Have you gotten it's the Civic Access sling you're talking about, right?
Yep.
Have you gotten the version 2 yet?
I haven't had a chance. I've seen the new buckle style that has been called out, so that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Have you tried it out?
So they sent me one. I haven't had the chance to really test it in the field yet, but a few of the criticisms that I had for the V1 I think was definitely solved for V2. Like I like the new positioning of the buckle. I think it works better in sling mode that way. And they sent me one in Coyote Brown, and God, it just
it's really good.
God, they got a good Coyote Brown, man. That Pantone rocks.
Yeah, I like the original a lot. So, and I think that's probably why I wasn't as it wasn't as on my radar, the new version, when I saw that the design was the same, because that was one of those things, and maybe this is on your list, I don't know, of overrated or underrated. I don't want to jump ahead, but the strap management, is it's one of those things that got called out a lot for that one, and it just didn't really bug me on the original one, so I've been happy with it. And
dude, I love this. Okay, now I need you to interject if you have any ideas. Now we're going to jump into overrated or underrated strap management. And you think that, wait, so does that mean that you don't care if there's like a bunch of dangle flying all over the place? No.
That's correct, man. I think it's overrated. I know. I mean, I'm not mad if it includes strap management, but honestly, sometimes it stresses me out more, because if they have the little bands and the thing pops out of the band, I feel like it just stresses me out that I'm like, oh, I'm not managing my strap. I got to put it in. And then there's some that have like metallic buckles that help keep the straps in place, but they can come loose, and then that's just like whacking things. And so if it's well done, I'm glad to have it, but I don't know, it just doesn't bug me. I'm also just not the neatest person always, so maybe that's part of it.
I too am not like the neatest of people, but I am someone. I just there's something about the dangle like hitting me and like getting in my way. It drives me berserk, dude. Absolutely crazy. So, but I do agree with what you're saying. Like when you do have a strap management system like Able Carry, they use like a laser cut Hypalon for their strap management system, and when it pops out, it's really hard to get back in. And then you're like stressing out. Like I can't push down too far, otherwise I'm screwed. So it's got to be the right hardware. I've seen some, and what we use on the Firo bag is like a plastic one that's impossible to pop out. So it's just this little thin square of plastic. And by the time that it hits where the friggin' material is sewn over, it can't go past that. So it's kind of the best of all worlds.
Ah, interesting. All right, that's well thought out, and like it's nice, right? I mean, and I think sometimes if it's a bag that has a lot of straps, it's probably something a little more tactical, functional, or like outdoorsy. And so I just kind of feel like it's part of the territory, and I sign up for the full package if I'm going that route.
If you're getting the Go Ruck bag, you want the full Go Ruck experience, dangle and everything.
Well, and that's the thing, is they have no, compression straps typically, or a lot of straps to even deal with. So I guess they don't even have to worry about it.
I guess.
On the M23. Now, they do have the management of the straps, and I don't think it'd bother me if they wasn't there. So that's why I'm like, it's a little bit overrated, in my opinion. There are some
On the M23, what are they using for the strap management? Like, what is it hardware? Is it just the nylon webbing?
It's like some elastic. Yeah, elastics on the like main straps on the front, because you can adjust those, and so.
Well, Danny Pack's officially with his first overrated of the Overrated, Underrated, Perfectly Rated podcast. So, okay, good. I'm on team underrated. Anybody who watches the Nomads Nation channel, we have our little meme, Stop the Dangle, and I will fight against the dangle until the day that I die. The day that I die.
I appreciate it. I'm glad you're out there fighting for it, and I will appreciate it.
I try not to be too picky on my reviews. I try to be as objective as possible, but when I see that, I kind of lose it a little bit. So we all have our quirks, right? That's one of mine for sure. All right, looking at my list, which one is next? I'm curious to hear your answer on this one, Danny, because I could go any direction. Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated, self-standing backpacks.
Oh, I was hoping this was on the list.
Ah, nice.
I think that this is either underrated or well rated, and I didn't used to care that much about this, and the more I've used bags that tip over when I put them down next to me, the more it started to bug me. Like So when a bag stands up on its own, like it stands out a lot nowadays. Like just put it down. I can access the pockets, especially because like I'm outdoors or I'm in an airport. Like everything's dirty. I don't want the bag tipping over, and I don't want to have to worry about leaning it just so that
I think like angle where you're just like, please don't move it. The small gust of wind just knocks it over. Yeah. The struggle with that is real. So that makes you think underrated, right? For self-standing backpacks / perfectly rated.
Yeah. So like I would say enough people are talking about it now. I see a lot of comments on this as like people saying like, I wish it stood on its own. That maybe it's becoming perfectly rated, but I was one who probably underrated it before, and I'm glad that it's coming up because like it's a really big deal. It's in my like checklist of like ideal bag features now. It's at that point.
Well, you're a big GoRuck guy and a big Evergoods guy, and I'll be honest, I test these bags out for the reviews, but I haven't worn them like super frequently. How well do these bags self-stand? Are there some GoRuck bags that do it better than others? Are they all great? Are they all bad? Like I can't really remember right now.
It's a mixed bag, so that's one of those things where GoRuck in many ways does not check off a lot of those boxes, but it's my first love, and so I always have to caveat that, right? Like, there's just GoRuck will always surpass many of these things for me, but they have it's a little inconsistent. So, like, I recently used their Dyneema bag, and that stands up super well on its own because it holds its structure well. I think I heard you talk about this in the some of the Fyro videos you've done, which the balance there with like how rigid your bag is and getting it to stand, and so
for sure
the Dyneema one does a good job. Some of the GR2s can stand, but I don't know, it's a little inconsistent. It depends on when if you take your laptop out and the weight suddenly shifts, it'll fall over. And then same with Evergoods. The CTB line does a pretty good job, especially when the bag's a little fuller, of being able to stand on its own. It's not perfect. I think the rest of their bags are a little less, like the CPLs are pretty rounded, so I don't think they stand up well from what I remember.
Yeah, and in all these bags, defense, they're not marketed as self-standing bags at all, So, but actually, talking about the CTB, did you get the 20?
I didn't. I'm kicking myself. I waited too long because I was like reading about the height, the dimensions on the site, and it seemed like it would be a little small for what I was, my ideal bag. But I've seen some of the pictures coming out now from people who got it, and I'm kicking myself because it looks amazing. And as soon as there's a restock, I'm going to be the first person on the email list, like, harassing that website. Like,
October. It's coming soon. But yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, because you're somebody, you use the CTB 26 as your everyday carry, and that's,
Yeah, man, I got it right here, right next to me,
So yeah, for your everyday carry, you use the CTB 26. So I could imagine for, losing that 6 extra liters, that's a lot of liters for you.
Yeah, it's the height that was, because like I used the PLC 20, and that was a bag that I wasn't a huge fan of. As much as I love Evergoods, it just felt really tight on me, and I didn't enjoy wearing it. And so, based off the dimensions, I was like, oh man, the CTB is kind of in that same range. But so far, everybody's pictures just, I don't know, it's got me mad at myself that I didn't pick one up.
Somebody put one up on the Nomads Nation Marketplace, and I think like friggin' 45 seconds later, gone. So yeah, the demand is real. Evergoods keeps crushing it with these launches. I mean, whether it was the Cap 0.5 into this now, I mean, they're selling out of everything, dude. It's crazy what they're doing right now.
Yeah. So absolutely, I'm excited for it. Love it. Can't wait. And it seems like it does a good job of standing when full.
Yeah. And on that standing note, I mean, it's interesting because the standing is really a form versus function thing. Because I think everybody, wouldn't mind if their bag self-stood, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, there was really no negatives with that, except the one negative is to really accomplish a very high-quality, I would say more consistent self-standing bag, is to have a really squared bottom. And a squared bottom is just not as sexy as like a circular, curvaceous, rounded backpack, So you are getting some compromise there in terms of, it's a form versus function thing. It's like Bellroy bags. I think the silhouette on the Bellroy bags is just so beautiful. Like the classic backpack, it's got that little dip, and then it kind of cuts off at the bottom. But you couldn't lean that against a wall to get it to self-stand, But, so that's always the median we were trying to draw with these bags is, which features are important enough for you as to where you're willing to sacrifice the aesthetics, and that's the conversation that's always very interesting to me. But it seems like you said, more and more people are starting to get a taste of a self-standing bag, and they're like, oh, I want more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly in that camp.
Next up, Danny Pax. PU coated zippers, overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated?
Oh man, this is a tough one.
It is a tough one.
It's tough because I feel like as much as I've tested a lot of these bags in water, I dump a lot of water on them and take them out in the rain. Mm-hmm. And it just always feels like a little bit more peace of mind to have it. And sure. You know, I still would prefer to have, like, I haven't had any issues with reverse coil YKK zippers for the most part, but I still would rather have them than not. So I would say perfectly rated.
but ironically, GoRuck and Evergoods, I mean, I think Evergoods has done it on like a couple limited drops, but I mean, these two brands really don't do PU coated zippers ever, right?
Nope. I have the Phoenix collaboration, so I have the best of all worlds. I have a CTB 26 in XPAC with the PU coated zippers, so that bag is staying with me forever.
Yeah, you can take that thing into a monsoon and you'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, the thing with PU coated zippers is it's such a like multi-dimensional thing because is it increasing the weather resistance? Yes, but are zippers pretty weather resistant in themselves already, especially reverse coil, like you said? They really are. Like, I mean, and if you are in a downpour and you have PU coated zippers, there's still seams for that stitching along the zipper edge. The water can still get through there, but also on the flip side, it does just give you that little extra peace of mind. But also on the other flip side, those fuckers can peel. Actually, they usually do,
Yes.
So it's like, it's a temporary solution, and it's like, okay, I want to spend $300 on a backpack, and then in a couple of years, you want those zippers like peeling off. So it's really a tough one for me. We included it on a couple of the zippers for the Firo bag, but a couple of them we didn't, like in terms of like different compartments. But it was a really difficult line to draw. I think that there's definitely value to aesthetically as to where it can offer a sleeker sort of a look. But even then, it's a little bit time sensitive in that sense because the peelage is likely to happen.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. And I haven't had any like of mine that are majorly, peeled that I've had for a few years now, but I know that, that's one of the things with as reviewers, we're switching bags so much. So
Correct.
If you're using that every day, 100 times a day, I can see there being a difference there. Yeah,
it takes time, but yeah, I mean, 100% agree. Like, we're switching bags, often as reviewers, so I haven't given a PU coated zipper 4 to 5 years of opening and unopening 50 to 100 times a day, right? So that's when that peelage starts to happen. So what was your final answer then? Was it underrated?
Yeah, I would say it's perfectly rated, or like, I would say it's well rated.
I'm going to give it a perfectly rating as well. It comes with its fair set of pros and cons. It's not perfect. It does offer a bit of extra peace in mind. Perfectly rated. Final answer.
Ooh.
I got one for you that might be a little bit spicy, and I'm going to lead this one off by saying it's actually my first overrated one, and that's going to be Bellroy backpacks. Now, hear me out, because I love Bellroy.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
I freaking love Bellroy, but as I've been reviewing more and more of their gear and reading a lot of comments on Bellroy gear, I'm seeing that, or my position on Bellroy gear in general, is that they do the best slings in the game, some of the best pouches in the game, amazing messengers, wallets, I love them, folios and stuff, and but when it comes to their backpacks, I think that right now, and this is not really actually coming from me, more maybe a representative for the carry community, is that there's some things that Bellroy backpacks could be doing a little bit better. We're getting like some slippage issues when it comes to the hardware. We're getting, you're seeing some quality control issues here and there. And don't get me wrong, Bellroy backpacks are great, and I think also too, on a personal perspective, I like a little bit more padding on my backpacks, especially on the shoulder straps, right? So it's not highly overrated for me. I still love me a Bellroy backpack. I love the classic. I love the transit. I get some use out of the Apex every now and then, but to throw a little spice into the mix, I think if I had to pick one that's a little, little on the overrated side, Bellroy backpacks. Not their slings, not their pouches, but slightly overrated for me. Danny, what do you got?
I definitely have heard a lot of the issues with the slippage and some of the quality control. Trying to think through all the bags I've used recently. I'm struggling because I really like Bellroy bags a lot, and especially now with some of the newer ones, I've seen you gotten some mail calls with like they're adding luggage pass-throughs now, which maybe I don't know if that's on your list, but I freaking love luggage pass-throughs, and like I hate that the transit work pack that I have does not have a luggage pass-through, and so yeah, I mean, I guess if we're talking like by features, I don't know. I still think they're well rated though. Like they're a premium offering, but I love the style of their bags, and then one of the things I really appreciate about them, and this is another one I want to get at some point on your list, especially with your experiences.
It'll be next.
Is the laptop sleeves that they do are really good on their backpacks, which is something that's important for me.
I agree.
So that's why I would put them in perfectly rated for me. I think they're now more mainstream. People know them. I think they can improve, but I think they're in a good spot. I love the Air and Bellroy combo that y'all had. I think they're kind of in a similar. Like they're more well known now. They're upstarts that are now just like juggernauts.
100%. And yeah, just as a full caveat for what I said, I'm obviously a very big Bellroy fan, and honestly, they're probably perfectly rated backpacks, but I just wanted to, throw a little zest into there.
No, I got you. No.
And it's not all their bags, and honestly, their feature sets are amazing. I just think for me, I like to see a little more padding on shoulder straps. I like to see a little bit more. The shoulder straps are a big one for me, but I think that what you mentioned is really interesting as to where, like, the luggage pass-through holder. I think what Bellroy is doing a very good job at right now is they're listening. They're now all their bags are going to start getting luggage pass-through holders. I don't have insider information on that, but we're starting to see like the Venture now has a luggage pass-through holder. This model, so they're starting to add that in there. So I think there's going to start taking this feedback and really listen to the carry community in that sense. So I'm sure. In a year or so, I might say Bellroy backpacks are underrated, dude. So on a good note, I like that they're applying all the feedback that they're getting from the community. The luggage pass-through holders also, for me, a very big thing. And I don't travel with a suitcase really often. Like, it might be once or twice a year, but those times when you do it, it's just like you need it. It should go without saying. And they're doing a good job. I think some of their bags actually have the vertical luggage pass-through holder, but what do you prefer on that? Vertical, like as to where you can stand the bag upright, or where the bag is on its side when it's on the luggage?
Oh, that's a good question. And I love how the passion I see in comments on this. Like, I always love just seeing people's experiences, opinions. And so the comments are awesome. Y'all are the best for making me think these things through. The biggest thing for me that matters is that the laptop is oriented in a way that makes sense with the luggage pass-throughs. So I hate when a bag you lay it on its side, but the laptop is from the top, and then it's like, it doesn't match. And so I still prefer overall having it stand vertical, and then being able, I think to me that's the best, just smoothest setup for traveling. So I think that's
on the flip side, when you look at the CPL, it kind of works because the whole bag has that horizontal integration where it is on its side, but you can get that quick access compartment right there. You can get the laptop sleeve. It's all designed in that sense. So that's why you're right. It depends on the bag and how it's sort of put together. But yeah, if it's a bag that has to go on its side and the luggage pass and the laptop compartment is on the top, that doesn't work as well. So we're on the same page there. All right, so Danny, you said you got one for me. What is it?
Suspended or false bottom on the laptop compartment. This is a big one for me, and I'm curious, especially now that you've designed. I saw some of the behind the scenes footage with talking with your designers on that aspect. So what are your thoughts? Underrated, overrated, perfectly rated.
That it couldn't be more underrated because, dude, I mean, I'm on my laptop sometimes 14 hours a freaking day. I've got online businesses and YouTube stuff, and so for me personally, my laptop is just so freaking important. And a false bottom, I've been known to drop my bag a few times, or to slide the laptop in a little too hard, and it hits you like, oh god, that's $2,000 down the drain. So it's absolutely crucial to me. But it's interesting. Like, I understand why bag companies don't want to add that, because if you have that false bottom on there, right, you're losing potential real estate that you could slide a larger laptop in there. So it does decrease your customer base, and sometimes, depending on the size of the bag, right, there's a lot of factors. But if you have a smaller backpack and you want it to fit a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and you got a big ass couple inch false bottom on there, that doesn't always work out. So I understand how bag companies end up getting their back against the wall and they have to make a decision. But for me personally, dude, false bottom, padding, PU coated zipper, the more protection you can give my laptop, the merrier. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's super underrated. That will definitely really hurt my experience with a bag. I'm big on that one. So glad to hear that. And
what laptop do you use, Danny?
I have a 14-inch MacBook Pro.
Okay, that's nice. I got the 13-inch. Should I upgrade to the 14?
I mean, if it doesn't have the ports, I would say yes, because it's super nice to have an HDMI port and an SD card slot. Like, I didn't mind dongle life, but I don't need them anymore.
So the 14-inch has all these built into the side? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool. Yeah, this little extension thing is really annoying.
It works, but yeah, no, it's been super nice.
Have you, with your laptop though, like, you're someone who travels and you're concerned about weights of bags and making sure that you can be under the weight limits. You don't have to check any bags. Does your laptop purchase ever come into mind with that? Because I'm starting to think that I want to go to an Air at this point. I don't know what I'm going to do when I need to upgrade laptops. Mine's good for probably a few more years, but I'm debating going down to a MacBook Air to just kind of save that extra quarter of a pound to half a pound. But I'm not sure. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good point. I haven't thought about it as much, but now the Airs are so popular. I mean, so powerful I'm not editing 8K video or I'm doing some editing, but not anything like a Peter McKinnon or any of these people. And even they use MacBook Air sometimes. So
yeah, for sure.
So I probably would be open to that, honestly. Now that you mention it, that's interesting. You brought up weight because that's another one that I had for you as to is it overrated or underrated. This is the big one. This is my.
I feel bad. I'm just doing my list. I didn't realize you had some of your own as well, dude.
No, but these are coming from you, like this conversation. That's why you're sparking these. I want to see the other ones on the list because I'm so curious. But this is a big one for me because this is probably the most commented thing on my videos. Is like, can you add the weight? What's the weight of the bag? Mm-hmm. And I need to get better about that. So I'm sorry. I'm working on it. But the reason I don't is because it's something that just I don't really pay that much attention to. I feel like it's a pretty overrated aspect of bags. And I feel bad because I know that the weight limits on international airlines are rough. And so I always focus more on the appearance of the bag than the weight. And so, yeah, so I've spoiled, I guess, myself by saying I think it's overrated. But I don't really care that much about the weight.
Interesting. That's kind of a hot take because I think there's a big movement in the carry community for lighter bags. Like if you look at the trajectory of sort of this whole community, I mean, it was just a world where there was JanSport backpacks and Osprey and Fjallraven and that was it. And then all of a sudden, 10, 15 years ago, you had the Peak Designs, the Nomadics, and the Boundary Supplies all coming out, right? And these bags were getting feature heavy and more modern and more futuristic and heavy. On top of it, I mean, you look at those Peak Design V1s, I think they were 4-something pounds. The Nomadic is 4 pounds. Boundary Supply Prima is right around there as well. GoRuck, they came out in the same time as well. They weren't in the Kickstarter sort of niche, but those bags 4.5 to 5 pounds sometimes, right? I mean, the Heritage one that I have with the leather, I think it's on the bottom. I mean, that thing's 12 pounds basically. It feels like it. So, and then now though, it's kind of swinging back around where I get a lot of comments where people are like, "Dude, I love this bag, but it's so heavy, I can't take it anymore." So for me, we're gonna be on opposite spectrums here. Just as we're I'm team laptop protection, I'm team light as the bag can possibly be. But it's always a fine line with that. So I'm going underrated, but there's a fine line with that. I don't want a compressible day pack. I don't need it to be half a pound. I still want there to be features. So for me, an EDC that clocks in somewhere between 2 to 3 pounds is ideal. And it doesn't seem like much, that extra pound, but I do think it kind of goes a long way. But it feels like it shouldn't, but it kind of does, Well, you're like, no, I don't know, Aaron, because I don't care about the weight. So you're definitely on team overrated in terms of that. But that makes sense. I mean, Evergood's bags, a bit heavier. GoRuck bags, pretty heavy, all things considered. So for you, it doesn't matter. But what I think is interesting about those brands, and I don't know, let me hear your thoughts on this, Danny. Even though these bags are heavier, they're definitely comfortable. So the harness system does such a good job of neutralizing that weight. and making the bag not feel as heavy as it is. I mean, do you find Evergood's bags and GoRuck bags to be pretty freaking comfortable?
Yeah, in general, I'm a big fan of their harnesses. GoRucks in particular are weird because they're like the one bag I've used where it seems to get more comfortable as it's heavier. Like, there's something about, because like, this might have been because I had the 1000D, which took forever to break in, which, speaks to the durability, but like having the weight really helped kind of like soften up those straps.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, they're designed for rucking. So they're like, I used my GoRuck bags to ruck with 30 or 40 pounds, and it helps to have the harness system that they offer. And even heavier bags like Air, they're heavier bags. Air's bags come in at, 4 pounds, some of the travel packs and stuff.
For sure.
And their harnesses do a great job. Like, they're some of my favorites. And so I think that's what I look to more, is like, how comfortable is the harness? And I'm not against the lighter bag. If companies find ways to save the weight, like, I'll take it, like with the Ripstop here or with XPAC, or other lightweight. But it's just not a deal breaker in the same ways, or like when I'm packing, it's not something that I factor in with a backpack as much, because I'm like, if my bag, like, I don't know, a pound or here or there is like I'm not gonna pack that optimized to where I can like use a pound to like change how I'm gonna travel. And so that's why it doesn't stand out as much. I totally understand, and I do want to be mindful of, like, I know sometimes like my back hurts, people have bad shoulders, like that also factors in as well, right? So there are other use cases where a lighter bag is super helpful, but it's something that I just don't pay as much attention to. And so I've noticed that in the comments, and I'm adding the weight more now, and I want to get better at that. But it was interesting to me seeing those comments. I'm like, why don't I add why do I constantly forget that? And I think it just comes down to that. It's like, I'm just not thinking about it.
It's not really that important to you. Yeah, we get asked all the time. We actually we verify the weight. We got like 3 scales.
Yeah,
in the studio.
I love that.
Yeah. Don't steal that. That's ours. Okay.
Taking it.
All right, dude. All right. Well, I got one more for you, Danny. Then I'm gonna let you go. And this is I think it's an appropriate ending note as you're about to head to your European travels, because we're in the carry community. But sometimes I feel like we don't talk a lot about luggage travel. We're always talking about backpacks, but So I think I know what your answer is going to be for this. But luggage travel, overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated?
I don't know, because I've swung back and forth on this one over the years, right? Like, before I was like, perfectly rated, and then as I got into the one bag travel, I was like, oh, it's overrated, like one bag all the way, all the time. And now I'm more pragmatic, right? And I'm like, okay, there's situations where the 2 bag setup is just much more convenient. And so, I don't know, I guess, would it be perfectly rated to say if it works for you? Like, I think, and I'm going to separate out checked bag, right? Because I would never check. That is where I draw the line. I will not check a bag. Like, sorry, that's a tough experience.
You cut out right at the end, Danny. What'd you say?
I said I'm separating like carry-on luggage from checked bag, because I still won't check a bag. That I think is overrated, or don't do it, or avoid at all costs. Like,
got it.
But traveling with a roller that I can carry on, I would say, is still like a very convenient, nicely, perfectly rated way to travel if it works for you, right? Especially if like you're not a weird fanatic like myself about one bag travel.
Yeah. No, I think you brought up some really good points there. Like, I agree that it's overrated, or in some ways, and underrated in other ways. I'm also not checking bags unless I'm traveling with my wife, and then she's got the biggest suitcase we have in the house, right? But I find it overrated in my personal life, because living in Asia, dude, it's getting wild out there, man. These airlines, they're weighing everything. They're weighing personal items. They're weighing carry-on. They're weighing check-in. And with even with really nice airlines like Cathay Pacific or Qatar, they have like 15-pound maxes for their carry-ons. And that's 15 pounds. The suitcase weighs 7, So you put some clothes in there, it's game over. So I love a good old luggage travel. It's so convenient. You just got the 4 wheels and you're just cruising, But the airlines are taking it away from me, so I'm not happy about this. But I think because of that, in my personal travels, especially being in Asia, slightly overrated.
You know what? You swung me. I'm going to go overrated as well, because I'm just remembering the stress every time of wondering if I'm going to have an overhead spot. I hate it so much, and so. That's why when I travel with something this size that goes under the seat and that's it's like heaven. I'm like,
100%.
this is the way.
I swayed you. I'll take it. That is a perfect way to end the show. So, Danny, this was a blast, too. Was there anything else on your end, or what's going on the YouTube channel? Anything else you want to promote or plug?
No, nothing. I mean, I got a bunch of great reviews coming out in the next few months. These bag makers are just killing it this year, man. There's been some incredible new releases, and we're only midway through. So, just keep an eye out. I'll definitely keep an eye out for you, man. You have so much awesome gear just in the past couple of weeks that I'm like, oh my God, I got to catch up. And then, of course, the Firo bag. So,
man, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a hell of a year, and the gear, it just keeps on coming, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the rest of the year. I'm sure we got some epic drops coming up. We'll be doing some epic drops coming up. I'm sure we'll be doing this again very soon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having me on, and to everybody for listening. Love these conversations. Super excited to hear feedback, comments, and then more hot takes for us to dive into.
Give us some comments below for hot takes. Underrated, overrated, perfectly rated. Episode 2 or version 2 will be coming to you soon. Danny, thank you so much. Safe travels to Europe, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Thanks so much, man. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.